Going. Good morning, everybody here on the West Coast. It's 10 a.m., a little bit after 10 a.m. And I guess good afternoon to our guests in the Twin Cities, where it's about the lunch hour. And hello and good day to everybody else who's joining us from wherever you might be this morning on this Friday near the end of April. Welcome to the Raise the Bar webinar series. Today, our topic is how I navigate four-year schools. My name is Lori Barr. I am the co-founder of Raise the Bar, an organization that was whose mission is to support single-parent students in the pursuit of post-secondary education. The goal for us is to create opportunity and economic mobility for you and your children through education, with a focus on attaining a career that earns a family-sustaining wage. We've created this webinar series specifically with you in mind, as we know that the transition from community college to a four-year school can be a little daunting, and oftentimes there's information that we just don't know. And so our goal is to equip you with tools and information that you can use for a successful transition, so you can reach your ultimate goal of earning a degree. And so today I would like to, first let's cover a couple housekeeping items before we dive in. So you can submit questions via the chat, which will be monitored throughout the webinar. And we will answer those questions at the around the last 10 minutes of the webinar. So if you'll stay with us through the entire hour, we will answer those questions. Also, the PowerPoint that will be presented and this the recording of this webinar will be available on our website for folks to access later. You can refer back or go back and watch this at a later time, or share it with your friends if you find it to be of value. And lastly, you'll receive a follow-up email tomorrow, just thanking you for joining us, and it will give you another opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. If you want, to contact the panelists or contact me, you can ask for our email addresses, and we can talk at a later time. Definitely welcome that as well. So so let's dive in. Let me introduce you to our two amazing experts today. Today's webinar is co-hosted by Brenda Coronel and Nancy Ocana, and I'm going to turn it over to them now.
Thank you, Lori. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Okay, Brenda, we're ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brenda. Nancy and I will be sharing how we successfully transferred from a community college and navigated UCLA. This is our schedule for today, and at the end, we'll leave 10 minutes to answer any questions you have. Did you know that 1 in every 5 college students are parents? Us parenting students make up more than 20% of the college population. So I'm a Raise the Bar scholar and advisor and representative. I became a scholar by applying and being awarded a scholarship through Raise the Bar, which was meant for single parents pursuing higher education. They provided me with the resources I needed to graduate UCLA and after transferring from Rio Hondo Community College. In those pictures, that's my Rio Hondo graduation, and that's Zoe holding up my 3 associates from Rio Hondo. After I graduated from UCLA last spring, I came back to join their master's program in the fall. And this is my daughter, Zoe.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm 6 years old.
This is Zoe. And she motivated me to go back to higher education so that I can provide us with a future. So I can provide us with a successful future. And later on, I'll be explaining what a successful future looks like for me.
Hi, and my name is Yancy, and I'm a parenting transfer student. My major is Chicano Studies and Central American Studies, and I'm also double minoring in African American Studies and Education. I'm also an honors college student and a peer advisor for community college students. And I will be starting my Chicano Studies master's program this coming fall. And a majority of us transfer students experience imposter phenomenon. So what we're going to do right now is go on to what imposter phenomenon is.
When someone experiences imposter phenomenon, it's when they doubt their skills, worth, and accomplishments, and they also fear of being exposed as a fraud. Reading this quote by Dr. Tello about first-generation college students and applying it to parenting students is what helps me through imposter syndrome. Dear first-generation parenting students, you might question if you belong on campus. Remember, you made it to college through your hard work and merit. You carry strength and resiliency. Even when you faced obstacles on your journey to college, you found your way. Remember, you made it happen. You're a first-generation college parenting student. Carry that with pride. So like most working parenting students, I felt guilt leaving my daughter. Right here in this picture, it doesn't help. She's actually crying, and she said, she asked, can you only be gone for 1 hour? And I took a picture because these moments help fuel me whenever I feel like an imposter, when I arrive to campus and I feel like I don't belong here. I don't belong with these young college students who don't have the dependents. I don't belong here with these professors who don't understand that I do have responsibilities outside of their class with the amount of work they're giving me. It makes me feel like they don't understand that. So when I just look at this picture, or just I have to remind myself the temporary sacrifices me and Zoe are making today are for our successful future. To me, a successful future is one without struggling financially, and also one where I get to spend more time with Zoe. To sacrifice to Zoe because I'm spending less time with her to pursue higher education and to pursue a better future for us. So it's also a sacrifice for her. And I also have to remember how far I have come as a single parent. It's not easy balancing being two parental roles, being a full-time student, and working. But I have to remind myself how far I have come, and as a single parent, and that I can continue. I graduated from UCLA in my undergrad, and I can do it again. We just have to remind ourselves that we are worthy and that we bring value. And by reminding ourselves of that, it will help you fight the imposter phenomenon that you're feeling. And it's also great to know that great things do not come from comfort zones. So just whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, just know that you are capable. You, like the quote said, you've done it before and you can do it again. For example, UCLA wasn't even my dream school. I couldn't even say UCLA was my dream school because I couldn't picture myself there. And now that I'm accepted again to my master's program, I have to remind myself I graduated and I can do it again. Next, Nancy will be sharing her transfer experience.
Yeah, so I want to share and explain like why I felt imposter phenomenon. For me, I didn't feel worthy of attending community college because I wasn't a strong student in K through 12. I went into the workforce right after high school. I felt undeserving of an education. Yet my dream was to go to college one day, and it's something that never went away. And this is how I did it. I had to attend 6 different community colleges because of this, my community college career was not linear. My transcripts were a mess. I worked full time. I was a receptionist for over 15 years, and honestly, almost 20 years. Work came first. I had my responsibilities, rent. I moved out of my home right after high school. So what I did was find community colleges in every city that I worked in. But then I would stop attending because I felt intimidated. And then without dropping my courses properly, my academic record just discouraged me. I had so many fails and withdrawals. And then honestly, it was hard to find my academic passion. It took me a long time to find it. It's not until I took my first culturally relevant courses, my Chicano studies courses, that I finally found what I wanted to study. These courses encompass history, sociology, literature, politics, and this is where I found, what I wanted to study. But after that, I thought I was set. I thought I found what that was it. I was gonna succeed. But then I find out that I had to go through a whole academic redemption. I thought I was ready. I didn't realize that all those years at a community college would affect me. I didn't understand the community college system. I didn't have any guidance or direction. I had to start fixing all my withdrawals and fails. But I had to do 5 academic renewals and we started taking courses that I needed. I basically had to piece my transcripts up. And then I had to learn another very important thing was to self-advocacy. I had to do this for myself because no one else was going to. I had to sometimes stand in long lines for hours. I had to make long phone calls. I had to learn how to not accept no for an answer. If someone told me no, like a counselor or someone in an office, admissions, I would just come back and ask somebody else until somebody, I found someone that could help me. Another thing that was contributed to the imposter phenomena was I became a single parent once I transferred to UCLA. All of a sudden, I had less financial support, emotional support. I was emotionally distressed. I didn't even know how I was going to pay my tuition. I entered UCLA even more discouraged. But my barriers caused all of the imposter phenomena that I was going through. But it's something that I started overcoming every day because I was thankful enough that at my community college, I found a transfer program, the Center for Community College Partnerships, and they began to give me guidance and support. I actually finally had people telling me that my experiences were valid and important. And most of all, they were telling me that I can transfer despite my academic record. CCCP gave me the opportunity to meet other parenting students. I also began to make friends with my fellow students as well. Even though most of them were like half my age, I had to start letting go of the ageism and, I had to put myself out there. I had to change my perspective on my own academic journey. Everyone's academic journey is different. I had to stop comparing myself to others. And I also had to learn how to challenge stereotypes and microaggressions because the reality is that some people in academia will say that transfer students, students of color, parenting students do not fit in higher education, but they're wrong. Even family members and friends didn't believe in me at times. I had to ignore all of this. I also had to accept my worth and intellect. I am worthy, I'm intelligent. I've learned that I am. Even if I would not have access to higher education, I know that I was still smart always. Academic success doesn't always define our worth or intellect. It does create, though, life-changing opportunities for so many of us. Realizing and learning all these things is how I began to overcome the imposter syndrome. So now, I found empowerment through my identities. I'm not an imposter, I'm a Chicana, a daughter of immigrants, a parenting student, a transfer student, a non-traditional student, a first generation student, and I am a scholar. We have to learn how to practice manifesting our dreams and being bold enough to put out into the world what we can achieve. Here, me and Brenda, we're in a lecture hall and we're doing a presentation and, we manifested into the world that we can pursue our PhDs if it's something that we want. And here, I want to show that I've never given up despite all these years at community college and despite my barriers. My message is to never give up. And right now we want to go into defining what a hidden curriculum is. And the hidden curriculum is an unspoken or unarticulated information that students learn in an academic setting.
So these are just some that we found helpful. I found the Google Notes helpful when collaborating reading notes, class notes, and even study guides with my classmates because we could all put the same amount of work and see it at the same time. The next one would be the Forest app. So it's a timer on your, and it blocks you from touching anything on your phone. However, if you do touch your phone, then the timer stops. And instead of turning into a tree, your bush dies. So your goal is to nourish it and turn it into a tree. And it also includes, while it's timing, it also includes some nature sounds if you would like. I use my phone calendars for everything because it sets reminders, whether you have an iPhone or Google Calendar, they work the same. You could save notes, Zoom links that you could click directly on. And you can also send emails to who you're going to meet up with. And they can all like have the same Zoom link just through your email, to their email from the calendar invite. And you could save your destination of where you need to go. So that way your phone could remind you what time you need to leave according to the distance. And my favorite app that I found most helpful is the Otter app because um, even if you're in a large lecture hall, it does a great job of picking up what your professor says. And if your professor is okay with being recorded, it will record everything they are saying, transcribe it into notes. So you don't have to worry about writing everything down. You could rather focus on what they're saying and look back at your notes later. And even while you're commuting home from school, you can listen to the recording and study while you're driving by doing it. Some transfer websites that we found helpful are sis.org. So you input the school, community college that you're attending and the school you would like to attend, and it tells you the contract those two schools have and what classes you need to take because you don't need your associate's degree to transfer. And that's something community college counselors don't like to tell you. They like you for some reason to obtain an associate's degree, but really you can just take the classes you need and transfer, and assist can help you with that. Rate My Professor is very helpful because before I enroll in any classes, I check on Rate My Professor to see what students who have already taken the class think about the professor and how the course load will be. So I have an idea. And I believe that's also what contributed to my good grades because sometimes it's just the professor's teaching skills that depends on your grades. And last would be UC Tap and UC Tag. It's the same website. And when you transfer to a UC, when you're applying, you have to manually input all your grades. And this just saves you time because you don't have to do it twice. It will sync into your application. It tells you your transferable GPA because your transferable GPA is different from your community college GPA. And when you transfer, the GPA they look at is your transferable GPA. And what's cool is after you're done doing this, you get a tag of school. So tag stands for Transfer Admission Guarantee. So you're guaranteed one of the 6 UCs that are participating in tag. You're guaranteed admission there. Okay, so next, Nancy will guide us on how to be strategic with your plan.
So here we have to be strategic with our transfer plan, our 4-year college plan. We do have to find campus advocates like professors, counselors, because at some point we do need letter of recommendations, even at community college, or especially at a 4-year college for programs of scholarships and for graduate school. And we know that some private universities need letters of recommendations to transfer as well. Also, going to those office hours, and connecting with your professors. Most professors really do want to help us and will take the time. For me, it's always so scary because it's like, will they really want to? But because there will be professors that will not want to make time. But for those, we just have to, go to another professor. And, we have to connect to them. We have to let them know our transfer plan, let them know that we're parenting students, and talk to them and your other advocates. And also you can email them. And what I did was, I would ask my professors for a letter of recommendation when I knew I felt comfortable with them. And then what I did is, I would email them and say, well, thank you for, considering supporting me with a letter of recommendation in the future. And from there, I just started an email thread so that when the time did come, they remembered that they did agree to help you. And then you can provide them with, your personal statements or your resume to help you for them to structure your letter of recommendation. Also, another really important thing for us, especially as parenting students and depending on your majors, and we have to learn how to like take our coursework, like do it the right way. Taking lighter courses with more challenging courses. You don't want to take 2 science classes with the math because it can become overwhelming. And it's not that we can't do it or intelligent. It's just that, it can be overwhelming and it can, push you to quit. But if you do take your coursework, strategically, it won't be as hard. And then also, something that something that I did, but a lot of us don't know, is that you don't have to go to one community college to transfer. As long as you obtain those transferable units from any community college, you don't have to stick to one in case, your schedule doesn't work out at one campus. You can take a class at another one. You just, talk to your counselor about it. Also, financial aid appeal. When I transferred to UCLA, I didn't qualify for any scholarships or grants because I was still attached to, had a marriage status when for my income taxes. So I had to appeal, and I did. It was a process. I had to stay on top of it. I constantly called financial aid, but I find after months, they gave me like the blue and gold at UCLA, which is that they pay for all of your tuition. And still I took out loans and I received grants. There's also budget increases where you can get extra loans for childcare, for rent, for emergencies. Another very important thing is, withdrawals and financial aid. Financial aid is not unlimited. So we have to be strategic about the classes we take and especially pay attention to the classes that we drop and their deadlines. Because if we don't, we lose financial aid. We only have about 6 years of it. And it's still not impossible after that, but it's just more legwork. We just have to appeal, do more paperwork. But I want to say that although these like withdrawals have impacts on our transcripts, it is still not impossible. My transcripts were over 10 fails. Oh my gosh, probably 10 withdrawals. But because I changed everything, I was still able to transfer to a school like UCLA. And then for the last year is also inquiring about pass or no pass instead of getting letter grades, because this can also help if we know that we're not strong in a class. As long as we get a C, we can pass it and it won't affect our GPA.
Thank you,
So
Nancy.
now Brenda will speak about like what it is to, a day in her academic life.
Thank you, Nancy. So the picture on the left was my phone screen saver for 2 years. I saw as a motivation for me to try my best every day in my community college classes so that way I can be a competitive candidate to UCLA, because I knew that they're a competitive school to get into. To the right, 3 years later, I'm actually graduating from there. And a typical day for me at UCLA looks like just taking one step at a time, one day at a time. That's all we can really do. And each day, we have to remind ourselves that we're closer to our career goal. So at 8 a.m., I would drop off Zoe. That's when she would start her classes, and I would start my school. I would be on school by 9 a.m., which is when I started work. I worked on campus. Working on campus helps because I don't have to worry about commute time, and I could finish my work 15 minutes before my classes started. I believe what helped me earn good grades was being strategic with my plan, like we had mentioned, and going through my syllabus and saving all the due dates beforehand on my calendar so I can get reminders, because as working parenting students, we have a lot of deadlines. So it's just helps keep them in track and have reminders set so we don't miss anything. What also helped me was meal prepping. Since I was on school most of the days, I didn't, and sometimes I would skip meals, but I had to learn the hard way to meal prep beforehand so that way I don't have to skip meals and it would save me money. And before transferring, like most childcares, there's a long wait list. So I made sure that right when I got accepted, I called the school and I put Zoe on the wait list. That's the first thing you should do when you know you're accepted. So she was on the wait list, and typically childcares close at 6 p.m. I got accepted to different multiple schools, and I asked, one of the first questions was, what time does your childcare close? And most of them were 6 p.m. So that would become a problem when my classes ended at 6:15. I lived at the university housing, and what I found helpful was meeting other parenting students who also needed help with childcare for after hours. So what we would do is the days I got off late from class, they would watch my daughter, and vice versa. I would help them out. So it's just nice to build a community with other parenting students on campus, especially if you live there. And during my breaks in school, because I would have some breaks before my next class started, I would take advantage of that window time that we have. And I believe because I took advantage of all the window slot times I had, that I'm proud to say I graduated from UCLA with college honors, top of my class, and my research was actually published. I say this to encourage you that it is possible, even though we have a limited time. We just have to continue being strategic with our plan. And by the way, a quick tip is, if you're interested in pursuing a PhD and you know that's what you want, then I would advise to start taking research and earning units for it, because you need PhD is research focused, but also you get units for it in undergrad. And by getting units for it, you can lower your course load of how many classes you take because you're already using up units for research. Accomplishing everything that I did to complete my undergraduate degree, and as I continue to accomplish earning my master's, it just continues to be a sacrifice for Zoe. I'm going on to 6 years of pursuing higher education with no break. So as I mentioned before, Zoe has less time with me. So I make sure when I complete something, whether it be something small like a homework assignment, to reward myself. And I do that by playing with her. To me, playing with her Barbies, that's a reward for me, because I get a break from reality. I just get to play fictional Barbies. So arriving home, we would arrive pretty late from school, and she would arrive late from school too. We would arrive at the same time because I'm a single parent and I didn't have much help. I only had enough time to cook, bathe her, and put her to sleep. I always read to her going to sleep, and actually, and the last picture to the right, that's us sleeping. And I took that picture because out of my day, the best time of my day is when I put her to sleep, because that's our bonding time.
So now I want to speak about what a typical day looks like for me. For me, it's all about, trying to figure out how to balance work, single parenthood, and undergraduate. Um, Also, it's like flexibility is so key to me, and being graceful about it, because flexibility means, like, for me, like, sometimes I have to change my dinner plans. Sometimes I plan to cook and all of a sudden I can't, I have to order food, or vice versa. Sometimes we want a quick bite, but I know that we haven't been eating right. So I have to stop everything and then, make a nice meal for me and my son. Also, what flexibility means to me is sometimes I have to stay up and finish assignments and still get up early and get my son ready for school. Um, or it can also mean, not finishing an assignment, which I've been trying to do more now, and going to sleep early and saying, like, I can't anymore today and it's okay. And going to bed early and getting up, and I feel better to finish it tomorrow. I also have to be accept that my child, for at least in our life, you know, he doesn't always have a set bedtime. As for me, it's just as long as he gets, you know, in bed before 9:30, 10 tops, you know, it's okay, because it's sometimes we have to be flexible. I am a non-traditional parenting student. I have senior parents, you know, sometimes we have to go to them late. And I've learned how just to be flexible. And, you know, sometimes I hate to say it, but I have to leave my son to play on his device a little longer now, especially now that he can't go outside with his friends. And then also I have to change plans lots of times for us, because I find that I have to accommodate for class group work, which there's always projects. And typically, like, I am the first one to say, like, you tell me and I will be there, and I move stuff around so that I can get my work done. And, you know, honestly, there is no real balance. Some days are better than others, but I've just had to learn how to move forward. I've also have to learn how to depend on friends and family, work, you know, the university childcare that we do have, which is limited too. And yes, even bringing my child to lecture halls, I would let my professors know if I had to. And sometimes I didn't even. I will bring in my son at a lecture hall of 300 students and have him sit there with me, because I didn't have a choice. You know, I would take my son to my campus job and have him sit next to me. I run to pick him up after school and you know, go back to school and work. And then we'd have dinner on campus. You know, these are the types of flexibility that I have to get through it. And last, you know, I had to learn how to ask for accommodations for professors. I was so scared of this before, but now, you know, I'm a little more forward about it. And, you know, I do say I need it. You know, now can I have it, but I need it. And most of the time, professors have been accommodating even before COVID. And now it's even, you know, more accommodation. So then now what we're going to do is look at some educational resources with Brenda.
So our last slide, we would like, well, the last thing we would like to share before the Q&A is to leave you with some educational resources that we found helpful. We'll raise the bar. If you go on their website, they come with a list of educational resources, including mental health, food, employment, wellness, financial, and more. There's just everything for single parents or parenting students or just low income parents. Center for Community College Partnerships. So that's UCLA has a partnership with LA community colleges, and so what it is a transfer program. You reside at UCLA for summer. It could be a weekend. I resided there for a weekend for the parenting program. That's actually where I met Nancy back in 2017, and we've been as friends ever since. So back in 2017, I participated by staying there for the weekend. Throughout the academic year, you are assigned a mentor, and as long as you meet with them and attend the UCLA workshops, at the end you'll you'll be invited to culmination, which is what the photo is to the right. This picture means Zoe in 2018, a year after the program, and knowing once I'm accepted to UCLA. That's why she has her little UCLA outfit ready for us to start there. The Child Care Alliance of Los Angeles, YMCA, and YWCA are both income-based childcare. So you just you go on the website, you type in your zip code, and then from there it will tell you the locations and the most closest one to you. And most campuses, if not all community college campuses, have a transfer center and free tutoring and writing centers that we found helpful.
Now we want to open up and time for any questions and answers questions that anyone might have for us.
Yes, so if people have questions, they can enter it in either the chat or the Q&A. I have a few here for you. What do you know now about transferring that you wish you knew before you transferred, if there's any one top things?
I can go first. I think my top thing is knowing that I could. I think I spent so many years just thinking that because of what I didn't know, that it would affect me. And I just wish that if I would have known that it's okay to get withdrawals, it's okay not to be perfect. I think that would have just helped me like emotionally and not I felt so inferior for so long. And I think if we just know that, we can despite anything, I think it would have just changed so much for me. What about you, Brenda?
Asking for help, something I experience and I notice most single parents experience is they have trouble asking for help with childcare. They don't want to be a burden, and so that's something that I had trouble with. I know I mentioned earlier that I learned to trade off. Like one day I watch my friend's child and vice versa while I'm in classes or they're in work. So that's something I had to learn. Before that, I had to take Zoe to my evening classes, and Zoe wasn't very happy about that. So just don't be afraid to ask for help.
One question we have, are student parents eligible for special accommodations? I think that's partly tied to Title IX, or, what nationally, Lori, I don't know, you may have some answers to that as well.
I would ask a clarifying question. In what regards? Do you mean learning accommodations for some sort of identified, learning disability? Or are you talking more in terms of parenting and pregnancy students? If it's the first, then yes, anybody who enters post-secondary with identified accommodations coming from the high school, whether it's a 504 plan or an IEP, and those are national terms and national services that they're recognizable, at every university. So you would, if you have that and you go to the, whatever it's called on your campus, whether it's student services, Susan may have, a name of other terms of, what they call them on their campus, but yes, you are entitled to those services. If you have those documents, you can take them, and those accommodations should be recognized and provided on your campus.
I can add some Title IX stuff here. On most campuses, what Lori was talking about is called the Disability Resource Center. And these are for people that actually have documentation that there's a known learning disability. And in cases where a pregnancy becomes atypical, meaning you need more than the average 2 to 3 weeks that most people take off because you've been ordered on bed rest, or the birth was maybe cesarean, so you need more recovery time. Even pregnancy that is medically impacted is a disability, and you can get your medical documentation, take it to the Disability Resource Center, if it's not called that on your campus, ask your advisor, because every campus has to have somebody in charge of that. But then there's also something called Title IX. Title IX is a gender equity federal law that does cover pregnant students. Title IX is what allows you to ask for pregnancy leave or a couple weeks off or extensions just because you're having a pregnancy and a delivery. It doesn't have to be medically impacted or unique. It's just a plain old ordinary pregnancy that you might need to miss 2 or 3 weeks for, falls under Title IX. Most professors will not know that. And you don't want to necessarily come at them with Title IX, because then they think it's litigious. They won't know what you're talking about. But if you tell them you're pregnant and that you need 2 or 3 weeks, which is about the average that we see when it's a typical pregnancy, for students to miss, and some extensions on your assignments. and they say no, because we can't give you that without medical documentation or whatever, that's when you would refer them to Title IX, and you could contact the Title IX coordinator on your campus, and everybody has one. As far as just ordinary parenting accommodations, you have the right, if you're having unique circumstances, your child was sick, you were up all night, you couldn't turn your assignment in, you have a right to ask for an or for an extension or accommodations around that. The problem with the children situation is there's no law covering it. So pregnancy is a gender equity issue. It's covered by Title IX. Medical impaction is caused by medical disability. But if it's kid related, there's no law that says they have to give you the time off. But if you approach them and you do it with as much notice as you can, we find most professors, especially at the community college level, will make those accommodations. And if not, work with your advisor and ask them to go to bat for you.
Brenda and Nancy, did you ever have to ask for accommodations from a teacher? And if so, what was that experience like?
Well, for me, I always have to ask for, extensions or a week to finish, my midterm, or the finals is harder, but I had to ask for these things. And at community college, I didn't do it so much because I really didn't embrace my parenting identity there. But I find here that at UCLA, I would do it sometimes, but now I ask all the time, and most of the time I get accommodated. And, here mostly we work with the teacher assistants, and, a lot of them are very progressive, or they'll list on their syllabus that if you are a parenting student, to let them know, and that they will, make exceptions for you. So that's been my experience here.
That's great.
So for me, I didn't do it much, but I do remember this time that I did it actually with a class with Nancy. It was this long paper we had to write during the pandemic, during the protest. The whole world was chaotic. And it was so hard for all students to focus and to complete finals. It happened during our finals week. And so I thought I'd be completed with my assignment, but I wasn't. And I let them know my situation, and they didn't give me a direct answer. And I kind of was upset, and I said, because I know the Title IX, I have the right to ask for extensions and accommodations. And I didn't mention that in my email at first. I believe, yes, we know we have that right, but first we should just ask them to see what they would say first. And I'm glad I asked, because I asked and other students asked the same question, I'm sure. The professor actually extended the deadline. So I'm happy about that. And because I'm sure other students who didn't email and speak up, they were probably struggling during that time too.
Yes, I remember. And also Brenda emailed and I emailed too. And together we're like, what can we do? And yeah, it was eventually extended for the whole class.
That's great. You advocated for everybody.
Yeah.
What would you say your biggest challenge was in community college?
You can start, Brenda.
Where do I start? There's so many challenges starting community college as a first generation student. I didn't know where to start. I got lucky that I was hired at the counseling center, and my the counselors were, I made friends with them, and they're the best friends to make because they know exactly how to guide you. And honestly, if it wasn't for that, I would have no guidance. I entered a year before that, I entered with no guidance. I didn't know what I was doing. I was taking all the wrong classes because although I met with a counselor, I noticed that a lot of counselors, if they know you're a parenting student, they put you on a track to go to a Cal State or to earn a certificate, which isn't a problem, but it is if that's not your career goal, if that's not what you're seeking. So I was taking the wrong classes to fulfill the requirements for a Cal State, which I did which I was interested in, but I also wanted to broaden my opportunities and take classes for UC. So I actually had to take extra classes during the summer and winter, just so that way I can be eligible to apply for UCs. So I would say go on assist.org. That's how you assist.org. And then from there you can see the contract and you can see for yourself the classes you need to take, because sometimes counselors they just for some reason they just think because you're a parenting student that you're not capable of handling a UC, but you are. You made it this far and you're here right now. You're here for a reason, and it's because you're learning how to advocate for yourself. So that's what I would say is learn how to advocate for yourself and do the research yourself.
I have a quick question. Brenda, you refer to assist.org. Do you know, is that state specific? Or is it geographical specific, or could, the scholars in the state of Minnesota or, somewhere on the East Coast or wherever they are, is that something they can use and put in their specific school and their transfer school? Or is it only for California schools?
I apologize, I forgot to mention, right now it's only for California schools. But if you mention it to your counselor, I'm sure that they have something like that too.
There is, in Minnesota, there's an inter-college transfer website. They've just changed the name. I think it's ICAS, ICAS. But I can look that up and we can hopefully somehow post it or something. But yeah, there in Minnesota, there's a thing that you can plug in all the classes you need for your lib eds, and then you can double check them at the colleges you're going to see which classes meet those needs.
One last question. Do community colleges have parenting student organizations? And if not, do you have suggestions on how to find other student parents on campus?
I can answer that. Not all community colleges have parenting organizations. When I was at my last community college, it wasn't even something that I would tell anyone or really would see on campus. It's not until, like I said, in the Center for Community College Partnerships, they had a parenting site. But after taking the parenting site, we learned how to even advocate more for ourselves. And we learned how to start organization or like clubs, parenting clubs on campus. And a lot of us, our fellow mentees actually went back onto campus and started advocating for parenting students. Some of them began clubs. Some of them began to even, like, I know that at a community college, I think in Long Beach here, our mentees would tell us that they were not allowed to bring their children on campus, that if they brought their children on campus or even to a counselor's appointment, their appointment would be canceled. At my college, it wasn't like that at all. I always had my kid there with me too. But what they did is that they let the administration know, and they changed that policy so that your children can be on campus, because they even had signs on campus that said no children. So they were able to change that through the advocacy that we learned, that, we can change what the campus looks like, and we can promote parenting students, and we can have a presence there. So, there are things that we can do for that.
I would say we have time maybe for one more. I was curious, this is my question, Nancy. What was the response? Have you ever had any pushback from teachers when you brought your child to class? What was the response?
At community college, I never did it. I had one professor who, said it was okay, but at that time I didn't need it. At UCLA, it's different. I had to, and I was just lucky enough, maybe because of my major and the science, humanity and social sciences, that I actually had a teacher's assistant that I've had several times in several different, courses that on her syllabus she would write, if you need, you need to bring your child to campus, you can. And from that, I was like, okay. And plus, we were actually through CCCP, we're told that you can. We actually on campus have a students with dependence office where they'll give you coloring books so that you can give your children while you bring them into lecture house. So actually that was, we knew it was okay. We didn't know if it was okay for all professors. So I personally never experienced a pushback. I'd ask, but there were some courses that I didn't ask. And I would just have my child sitting there with me. And, you know, I'm lucky that he is he's 9 right now, and he was just a little bit older to be able to sit there. But that's just what I had to do. I even had to bring him to events sometimes. I actually took him to a monologue once, and, you know, he sat there okay for 15 minutes. And once those 15 minutes was up, that was it. And I had to accept it and, okay, let's go. And, you know, no one ever said anything. So that was my experience.
Thank you, Brenda, Nancy, and Susan, for your help and guidance on these questions.
And thank you to Brenda and Nancy for leading us through this presentation. I hope our viewers found the information to be valuable and helpful. You two really are just stars to have set your goals, and to be doing what you're doing while raising beautiful children really is remarkable. My takeaways are that you belong. To our viewers, Nancy and Brenda, you belong. Don't let anybody make you feel like you don't. You're on that campus. If you've been accepted to that 4-year, you belong there. So stand there like you own the space and be bold. Also dream big. Don't let anybody diminish your dreams. Let your star shine bright, and think about, you know, what you really want to do for you and your child and for your future, and go for it. And then lastly, communicate. Don't be afraid. Don't hide. Don't hide the fact that you're a parent and that you need support to attain your goals. And, you know, do whatever you have to do to get that support. And that starts with communication. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. And for those who are watching the recording, hope you enjoy the experience. And our next presentation is on, our next webinar is on Monday, this coming Monday. Brenda, do you have a slide to tease that, or do you want to present that real quick?
Yeah, Nancy, can you please share your screen? It was actually the last slide.
Yes, I'm sorry, Brenda. Yes.
Okay, yeah, we have 3 webinars coming up, and here they're going to be. Meanwhile, while she's pulling that up, I just wanted to let you know on the slide before. Nancy, if you can just go one slide. Yeah, you can take a quick screenshot, and if you have any questions that come up later, feel free to email us. And on the next slide will be our next upcoming webinars on the next 2 Mondays and Fridays. And this link is where you register, and I hope to see you there. And if you can't make it, then you could watch it. And I hope that it's been helpful, and thank you for attending, and continue advocating for yourself.